on that issue, contract labor.
Okay, contract. Okay, just as you're saying, contract labor. Now, what has happened in the past, right? Is that was abused because you had to understand something. Apart from contract labor, we had a set of people that we have what on the job training, right? And some that was supposed to be a short time of having people, and it ended up being years. It ended up being years, right? And take for instance the CPAP arrangement that that's supposed to be of a short period of time. That was a contract labor thing to elevate people from training them and having them from not only cleaning roads and painting stones, but to elevate them into something else. That have not happened. We are continuing to keep people in that sort of a submissive kind of way, apart from the workers of not having representation. Because when you're a contract worker, you cannot join a union. When you're a contract worker, you have no rights, right? When you're a contract worker, they tell you to jump and you have to say how high. Those are the things that we cannot accept. Now, we want to go back into this social because everybody and most people have the kind of notion that when we trade unions talk of Labor Day, all they hear is about salaries and negotiation and better work conditions. The trade union and camaraderie and all the other comrades will tell you, if ever there was an organization or institution that makes severe contribution to the social structure and social justice and social institutions in this country, was one set of people that stand above the rest, was the trade union movement. That's so, camaraderie.
Okay. Yes, indeed. Mr. Elder, let me bring you back in here. This is a very important area. This I go back again. Maybe I hope I'm not beating this too much. This issue of half a loaf being better than nothing at all. I want if you can come in here and probably give a perspective, because there has always been the view too that because of our economic circumstances, because of the environment for which we have found ourselves, we've been asked, as citizens, as workers, for a kind of sacrifice now, belt tightening, whatever you might want to call it, to help us ride out this situation as it is. Mr. Elder.
Stephen, you have said so much that the last part is instructive and important because when there's a request to help us ride out the situation, there's no reciprocity. When you are back on your feet and you are in profits, you do not see the employer say, okay, you helped me ride out the situation. I'm now making a profit again. Look, hold this, hold that, take this, take that. It is always an attempt to take and take and take and take and take from the workers. And then they beat you into submission and then get you in the place where you feel half a loaf is better than none. So you better stay quiet because you're lucky you have a work. That kind of syndrome, that kind of thinking, that kind of idea.
Yes, because why I raise that, Mr. Johnson, is that Mr. Elder. Why I raise that is that I've heard the comment, and I know that labor unions leaders have also responded to this. There was a statement by the finance minister that here are these measures that they would have instituted, and there was no writing there's no writing yet at that point. I think that was a statement which also angered a lot of people within the labor movement.
Every time Mr. Edwards speaks, he angers the labor movement. Let me just say that. He says nothing that is of benefit to the labor movement. Every time he speaks, he says something that attacks workers. The latest missile from him is to attack pensioners. And we will not stand idly by allowing him to do that. And we have not done that. In fact, he was so rude and disrespectful. He said, look, I raised gas price once, they're right yet. I raised it twice, they're right yet. I think more reason a third time. You understand? And that is the nature of that man, right? That is the nature of that minister. Be that as it may, this whole issue of contract work is designed to bust the union. Because what they are doing is that they are now negotiating one-on-one with each individual. You do not have that power of a collective negotiating power now.
Yes.
So what you find happening in some areas is that there's one job. Let's call a job a clerical assistant. And because I can negotiate, I'm paid $5,000. And because the next one has a better negotiation skill than me, he's paid $5,500. And because somebody else may not negotiate as good as I, they paid $4,500. Now you have the same job, 3 persons getting different pay. If you have a union, you find that that cannot happen. So it is all part of the union busting measure, because once you have people in silos, all part of the capitalist system, by the way, because the capitalist system promotes individualism.
Yes.
So once you have the promotion of individualism, then you have the proliferation of contract work, then you have the busting of unions, and then you have the ability of employers now to exploit the contract system to the best of their ability, to their own advantage, and then devil take the high moose. You better believe that half a loaf is better than none. You're lucky you have a work. Say thank God you have something, because it's all part of the capitalist individualistic system that has us in this kind of dependency syndrome and this kind of attitude that we are lucky, or that we are being treated in terms of a favor, or the government is doing us a favor when we get jobs. In fact, a government's responsibility and role is not just to provide work, but to provide decent work.
Decent work, yes. Because there is a decent work agenda,
exactly.
supported by the
decent
ILO.
work agenda.
Yeah.
That's right. And the government, as the largest employer, is the biggest perpetrator of ills against workers in this country.
Okay, and you're saying that contract labor is one of those mechanisms that are being used. And as you said that, I want to stay on that point, for just a little while longer. And I also want to replay, what we to replay that statement again by Her Honor Deborah Thomas Felix, as she talked about the issue of the erosion of contract, erosion of employment through this sort of contract system.
The erosion of the traditional employment contract, and the fact that nowadays work does not always take place in a physical workplace. So, for example, it covers work-related communications, including those enabled by information and communication technology. This convention protects persons in the world of work, including employees as defined by national law and practice, persons working irrespective of their contractual status, persons in training, including interns and apprentices, workers whose employment has been terminated, volunteers, job seekers and job applicants, and individuals exercising the authority, duties or responsibilities of an employer. The convention applies to all sectors, whether private or public, both in the formal and informal economy, and whether in urban or rural areas.
All right, I go back again to Mr. Remy. This is one of the troubled areas, I know, and I plan to just spend a little time on it. This business of contract labor. But Mr. Remy, how much has the union done in terms of treating with this particular issue? I know that it continues to be on the agenda, but in terms of an alternative, what else can be done or should be done to ensure that there is a move away, or there is that intent, or just basically a way that we can move towards greater job security? Because we can't talk about job security in the real sense if we are talking about contract labor, which essentially are short-term engagements.
And Stephen, that's why the labor movement did put forward a document prior to the People's National Movement coming to office called LEAP, Labor Economic Alternative Plan,
yes,
which spoke to the issue of economic stimulation. And once you stimulate economic activity, you provide the opportunities for sustainable employment opportunities, which now will move away from the contract work syndrome. But if you realize they rejected LEAP, basically because they rejected the participation of the trade union movement in a meaningful way in the National Tripartite Advisory Council. And they are doing everything possible to ensure that we don't have that meaningful contribution towards the holistic development of the society. So if there is stimulation in the economy, you will find that small and medium enterprises will be given boosts. in terms of that capital injection. They will be able to provide sustainable employment opportunities. And then we talk about the legislative agenda, the issue of the amendment to the Industrial Relations Act and all the other subsidiary legislation that they are holding back on, which will give a little more security to workers based on the input that we have had. So they are taking it from all the different angles, and the trade union movement haven't discovered that. Is that we are exposing it, and that is why you find that the disrespect at NTAC would have come about to push us out. But legally we are entitled to a say, and we will continue to publicly agitate once the opportunity arises in a physical manner, because that is what is going to make the difference in this space.
Mr. Rami, you seem to you seem to be have maybe I don't know. I know that we didn't compare notes, but you're touching on some of those very same areas that I wanted to raise. And I'm going to bring back in Mr. Johnson here. The labor movement has been accused of not wanting to negotiate and having a sort of a hard, sort of approach where it would have been seen by some people as difficult to work with. And I'm talking specifically about that scenario that happened some time ago where the labor movement saying that, listen, we don't want to be part of this NTAC sort of arrangement because it has not served us well. The labor minister talked about the issue of the critical need for us to be able to sit, in a civil manner around the table to be able to negotiate, because he's saying that we all heading towards the same goal. As I said, that accusation against the labor moving away from NTAC and saying that I don't want to be part of this.
Stephen, I just want to make it categorically clear that the labor movement in Trinidad and Tobago subscribes wholeheartedly to the tripartite process, which involves involvement by government, business, and labor. But it has to be with an element of respect and reciprocity, engaged in discussions. It cannot be one in which the government feels it in a tripartite discussions that it has the upper hand, or the business sector feels that it has the upper hand. It has to be one that engages mutual respect for each other, so that the whole issue of the National Tripartite Advisory Council, where labor, as was said earlier, was pushed out. We announced that we left, but we had been going on for several years in very sterile discussions where nothing was happening, when no labor legislation has been brought to Parliament for the last 5 years of the last term, and now for the first year of this current term of government, and none for the previous under the UNC or the People's Partnership Administration. So we are heading towards almost 10 years or more of no labor legislation being brought to Parliament. So if you're serious, we have seen all kinds of other pieces of legislation brought to Parliament, but nothing for labor. And after sitting down years and years in discussions, in consultations, etc., the labor movement is saying, if you want labor's involvement in any sort of tripartite process, whether it be called NTAC or otherwise, then you have to respect our participation by tangibly showing that we need to move forward, whether it be labor legislation, whether it be collective bargaining, whether it be the issue of contract work, whatever it may be. We need to see movement, even whether the issue of retrenchment, how these things happen. We need to see movement and respect by the government and by the other tripartite partners. All right,
Mr. Khan, I'll come to you shortly, but I thought it was also important to hear from a previous interview that was done with the Minister of Labour, Stephen McCletchie. Let's just get, we're going to get that queued up now.
We have unemployment rates soaring in every country. Trinidad is no exception to that. So, but moving away and getting, the only thing you get into when you move away from the table of discussion is adversarial kinds of behavior and positioning. And I don't think that going in that direction at this time is to anybody's benefit. We don't need to mash up the place. We need to build, and the only way we build is through dialogue.
Mr. Khan, let me bring you in here. You heard the Labour Minister.
I heard him, but he's naive to the fact. I think he just only came into office this year. I was fortunate to be at the opening of that NTAC forum, and we had representatives. And at our meetings, we always hear that the disrespect that was shown to our leaders in those meetings, right? You have our members going to there. You will have some of the business, but you never had a quorum on from the government support level. Always somebody missing, somebody important to make decision.
Yes.
You know, you cannot have that disrespect shown to our leaders, right? Because what happened is he was not there. He was not there when we were having discussion with at that time he was the opposition leader. Now he's prime minister, of where he want to go and see the labor, where labor should be, where labor should be sitting at the table. You know, he was not there. Minister McClatchy was not there when all of these things was told to the trade union movement. So when we went in there with a hope of where we can get better, where we can see benefit for the country, not only our workers. Because the farmer is not somebody employed to negotiate only on that. We thought we would see betterment in terms of the agriculture sector. We thought we would see betterment coming for the youths of the country. Yes. But the disrespect that is being shown to the labor movement and our leaders, we had no other choice to pull out. Because you cannot, because you tell the women that are being abused to move, to get out, to look for help. So you cannot be abused in meetings and disrespected and expect us to be staying there. He should have some more respect for us.
Okay, all right. Very interesting the response there, Mr. Khan. Okay, so we have a Labor Day, celebrations, as I said, every year. One of the things I wanted to also ask is that what is being planned for this year? Of course, things will have to be very different from I don't think we'll have the opportunity of seeing you on the streets, placarding and pavement pounding and just basically showing up the strength and whatever you have in terms of worker representation. What can we look forward to for this year? Mr. Remy, I can probably just go back to you again.
Stephen, and yes, while I would want to answer, out of abundance of caution, I just wanted to advise you that Comrade Joseph is also on the panel. I don't know if you have seen him properly. The TV rep, yeah, he's there. Okay, so I think you should try to seek his input in part of this discourse. Yes, he has a Galaxy phone. I think that is basically why you're not seeing him.
That's what happened, because there was no name. There was no name there.
That's basically, so I think I needed to say that because I'm seeing him there and I feel that somewhere along the line we should solicit his input.
Yes.
We would there are discussions that are taking place among the federations to have a virtual event. We definitely, and we have heard twice at the last two weekend press conferences, those questions were posed to the Prime Minister, whether the curfew would be extended because into the Labor Day weekend because it's coming up soon. And his answer was very, I would want to say mischievous. And I think the Prime Minister was really sending the signal that the curfew is going to be extended into Labor Day weekend and that it is definitely going to restrict the trade union movement from its ability to go outside there on the streets and mobilize workers and display our position. So we are in preparation to have a virtual event. And it is ongoing. And let me say, on Labor Day, there's definitely going to be an activity in commemoration of the importance of that day and the significance to the working class in Trinidad and Tobago. So it is not a lost cause. There is going to be something that is going to be held on Labor Day.
All right. Let me just bring in our guest. As I said, his name was not, I didn't see it coming up here on the system. But let me just bring you in. Welcome.
Good night, comrades. Good night, Mr. Cummings. Good night, all the Great,
Good night,
Comrade
Joseph.
Yes, my apologies. I as I said, your name wasn't listed. I just saw, you know, I just saw another name coming up. So forgive me for. Yes, forgive me for. Yeah, just for, you know, we have, as a matter of fact, we have just, you know, probably about just a few minutes again before we close the program, and I didn't want to close the program without getting a perspective from you, and as we, you know, head towards this celebration, but before that, your perspective, sir, on the state of you know of the labor movement in Trinidad and Tobago.
Well, good night to the panel again. My perspective is just the same as Comrade Elder, Comrade Remy. I mean, it's strictly union busting. But what I think we as the trade union movement have to do, we have to organize and mobilize, because the worker is the most important person in all this. And as Comrade Elder was just speaking about contract work, it is really hampering the workforce, you know. And I want to see the trade union movement take a vital stand in this thing, because we have this pandemic. We never had this before. And the employers, right or wrong, seems to be getting away with everything. And you just play the clips about the Honorable Deborah Felix, and, you know, and Mrs. De Freitas, she was right on point too. And we, as the trade union movement, have to unite and deal with this in a more serious.
All right. Okay. Indeed. So, so there's a lot, you know, lot to talk about, you know, even after this program. I think there's a need for us to continue the discussion, you know, around this business of labor, and I'm happy to you know to have your perspective as well. But we are almost towards the end of the program, and comrades, what I wanted to do is just for each of you just to take about 60 seconds, you know, as we wrap up, your closing remarks on you know this period of Labor Day celebration, and I go back again to Mr. Remy. In 60 seconds, just give us some closing remarks, where you'd like to see the trade union movement, as a matter of fact, and just basically some closing remarks at this time, Mr. Remy.
I would want us to continue to be at the center of human development, Stephen, and I always like to quote Pope Francis. He is one of the most radical popes that ever come out. He said the world is in crisis, and it is not only because of the pandemic. It's because of its natural environment, economic and political process, and even more in its human relationship. That is so profound. He has analyzed the world in one fell swoop, and it is unfair, it is unjust, and it's an inequitable world. And that is the role of the trade union. All of us want to change the world, but nobody wants to get there down in the trenches to do it. And that's the role of the trade union movement. Labor Day is going to mark the continuing of that process by the trade union movement to make that fundamental difference in the lives of the working class and the wider national citizens of Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay, Mr. Elder, 60 seconds.
I think these times present some challenges for the trade union movement, but of course with challenges there are always opportunity, and I believe that the trade union movement is equipped to grasp those opportunities. I believe we are equipped to ensure that we weather the storm. I believe that we are equipped to adapt to the changes that is needed. And I believe that we are equipped to ensure that we continue to represent our workers effectively in a manner that they will be so proud of the movement and that will benefit them at the end of the day. As we have said, we are in fact the fabric of the society that keeps it together. We are the backbone of the democracy of society, and we are the real and true opposition to the powers that be, to ensure that workers' rights are always at the forefront.
Okay, Mr. Khan, 60 seconds.
I think it is critical at this juncture that the trade union movement bond, but we cannot have a shaky bond. Our bonds must be very, very strong and understanding of each other and working towards some benefit for not only our members but the society at large.
Okay.
Our country is in a deep problem right now, and we need to get out of it. And it cannot be done by only financing and only about dollars and cents. It's got to be about social justice and
Okay.
respect for everyone.
All right, indeed. And we have also Mr. Johnson. 60 seconds.
Yes, certainly. Thanks, Stephen. I think Labor Day 2021 there's going to be a strong representation by the trade union movement, notwithstanding it's going to be a virtual presence, but the trade union movement is absolutely critical in this time. Our presence in the workplace, our presence to attend to workers' issues. Workers have an expectation and they're dependent on us. And even at a regional level, I expect, because I was just in a meeting earlier with some regional trade union colleagues, and they are too primed to deal with this, this pandemic and how it is impacting the workplace. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Gentlemen, we want to thank you all for sitting in with us, albeit virtually on the Citizens Community Forum. And it has been a very interesting, very engaging, enlightening, and edifying discussion. And of course, I see the need for us to continue the discussion in this vein. But once again, thank you all for being with us inside the Citizens Community Forum.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you,
It's a
Stephen.
pleasure. Good night, comrades. All the
Good
best.
night,
Comrades.
Good night, comrades.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Even
Yes.
Stephen, trade unionists like to talk. So when you have more than three panelists, it creates not enough time for the panelists that are on the
We will.
that are on the
Yes.
board.
I'm
We
sure.
love to talk.
I'm sure
love
we
to
have
talk.
an opportunity to address that, in the future. We can have some discussion.
You need to reduce the panel size.
We'll have some discussion. I'm sure. Thank you again for being part of it.
Take care.
But thanks for having us. Thanks for having
Thank
us.
you.
It's a pleasure being here.
Thank you. Thank you
This
for
is
having
the
us.
Citizens Community Forum. I'm Stephen Cummings, and it's always a pleasure to be with you. Of course, we been talking about so many different issues. We talk issues, health, social, political, what have you, and it's always important for us to bring these matters to you, and for us to have a healthy and productive civil discourse in terms of national issues, discussing national issues. So this has been the Citizens Community Forum. I'm Stephen Cummings. See you next Wednesday. It was a famous poet who once said, "They came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for the communists, and I did not speak out because I was not a communist. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me." Words there from famous poet Martin Niemöller, 1892 to 1984. Hello, I'm Stephen Cummings, inviting you to the Citizens Community Forum every Wednesday on Isaac 98.1 FM. And yes, we are also streaming live on FBN TV. That's our YouTube TV channel, as well as on Facebook every Wednesday, 8 to 9 p.m.
All FBN products such as FBN Studios, Promise Store, events, Isaac's corporate advertising packages, plus a quarterly newsletter update on FBN's activities.
You receive an annual thank you token and automatically join our radio birthday and anniversary club. Call Helena right now at 357-4075 or Wendy and Kieran at 622-8981. Call and find out about our packages and assist FBN in fulfilling its vision and mission.
I support the Isaac Fund.
I support the Isaac Fund. Be a part.
It's a gentleman's lounge this Friday with Madonna. And you know what? Last week was amazing. We got the men to talk. This Friday, joining us will be Roll Rollocks, president of Vision Works International. Rondell Fields, president of the Singles Fathers Association. Apostle I.K. Williams, Pastor John Corridon, attorney at law Kirk Hogan, Pastor Jilks, and Dr. Dr. Ansel Peters. Remember, you can learn a thing or two in the Gentleman's Lounge, honoring our relationship with our dads and our father figures and how they impacted our lives in any way, no matter how small. It's all about honoring fathers. We'll be also having Father's Trivia in the Gentleman's Lounge this Friday with Madonna J.
Well, look at you now.
Them say the grass look green up on the other side, but I lie, la la lie.